Thanks. Good evening and welcome to the planning board meeting for Tuesday, July 17th, 2018. As board members are aware, these meetings are all recorded and are on Milford TV. With that, I'll entertain a motion for the minutes. Motion by Pat to accept the minutes, seconded by John. All those in favor? Opposed?
One abstention.
One abstention. 3 in favor, Lena abstained.
Were you here?
I wasn't here.
She wasn't.
That's
She can,
fine.
she can vote on it, but that's okay. We have 3, so it doesn't.
Yeah.
81 Ps. 53 Beaver Street, Michael Balducci.
Good evening, Paul Kenny representing the applicant.
I'll take the Mylar and you can show them a copy and put one up on the board if you need to.
Check for $250 from the applicant, so, the application.
Thanks.
Board as well, or?
No, I think this is fine.
Take it.
If you could just go over what the applicant is doing.
We're creating this parcel to be conveyed to this lot here, with the resulting lot remaining here. And then this piece- Basically back parcel to be added to that.
Back parcel's being added to the middle parcel.
Yes.
Any questions from the board?
Motion.
Motion to have Larry sign the 81P. Here, a second. Seconded by John. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous at 4.
Good size lot.
You use one than I do.
Do we have to sign?
I don't think so.
No. Larry will sign.
I don't know what
Where's
the
my
next one
sign?
is. Oh, yeah.
Industrial
yeah.
Road, Birch Street, Corner Brook LLC.
No, my abstention. I wasn't looking.
This wasn't land court.
Mike Gladly, I'm here representing the applicant for Birch Street, Corner Brook LLC.
I think this one's land court. This one's land court plan, right?
Yes, this is a land court plan that we're preparing. I've been in discussions with land court, Thomas Gavigan. He's assured me that we're going to changes to the perimeter and,
No, they'll have to sign it.
oh,
They'll sign the land court plan.
Have a check
You
for
just put it over
450
there,
for the applicant.
Whatever, that's fine.
yeah, we'll look at the Mylar that was. So basically, I'm sure you're probably familiar with this project. It has been before the zoning board, and maybe you've seen it already, but it's the Birch Street Industrial Road project. We're just dividing it into the 3 lots, and land court numbers the lots 31, 32, and 33, the next in the sequence of the property that's been divided in the past.
Create the lot that the 40B's on.
This is the 40B going on, and
And we
then
have the
they're
2
keeping the
parcels
ones
that
up to the front.
Correct, this is the
Yeah.
31, I believe that's the lot that. the
Biggest
40B
one.
could be.
Yeah.
Any questions from the board? Hear a motion. Motion?
It's endorsable as submitted.
I'll move.
Motion by John to sign the 81P. Second, Lena?
I'll second it, yeah.
Second by Lena.
Too quick
All those in
tonight.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous at 3, 1 abstention.
That was quick.
That's pretty big.
There's one more 81P.
I don't think we need
There's
it.
another one? We'll sign this and then do the 81P, just to get it out of the way.
Oh, we all got to sign?
This one we have to, it's land court.
Give it to Joe. There you go, Joe. check,
This is
there's a road check.
This is corrected 81P following up on the variance. So you already signed one.
Happens all the time. Did, somebody else gonna do
I
it?
don't know if Pat,
Pat, you did?
I
He's
abstained.
abstained, just wait.
Oh, that's right. Nope.
It's an 81P from, the applicant is Louis Rizzoli and Julie A. Rizzoli Richards, 25 Short Street, Milford, Mass. Have a check for $250.
Isn't this the one that went
This
to
is
the
just a cor-
zoning?
This is just a correction. We have to correct it. What happened was we came before
I
you,
need 3 copies
we,
of that.
we got the,
Yeah.
we got the 81P signed, and then they determined that when you started doing the setbacks, you couldn't actually fit a house
Oh.
on the extra lot that was created.
Oh.
So we made some adjustments and came back in, just with the, you know, and it's basically it's the same. It's just.
the same but different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same, but
Yeah, it still complies with the variance that was granted.
Applies with the zoning
So
variance.
what did you do, Bob? Just
It's
move the,
endorsement.
where it jets out?
Yeah, yeah, I think it was something over here so they could fit a house.
And the other lot's still compliant, right?
The other some lot is still-
Okay, I'll make a motion.
Motion by Pat to have Larry sign the 81P, seconded by John. Any further discussion? Hearing
put a
none,
house
all
now?
those in favor?
Put a house now?
Opposed? Unanimous at 4. Is that,
I don't know.
Moving right along.
Karen?
Ready to go
Yes.
home?
next agenda item is the request for extension from Stone Ridge Definitive Plan Gutierrez Company for Deer Street.
Harris Company. We're representing our firm in a request on an extension to complete a subdivision roadway, on the Deer Street.
It's a letter from Gutierrez in your package.
Oh.
I don't know if we've gone through it.
So we granted you the extension to March 19th.
Correct.
You want to go to September of 19?
Yeah, we trying to be proactive, because as of today, we've not been able to secure a qualified contractor to build the remainder of the roadway. And more than likely, if we don't secure someone by the end of the year, we'll be back again to ask for additional time. So they wanted me to see if you'd consider it at this juncture.
Let me just explain to you what my feeling is. You're standing in front of me, so I'm just gonna tell you straight. You've been in front of this board for years. Then you asked us to rezone, and we did. Then you started to do something, and then you changed your mind and decided you wanted to put a 40B in, okay? As far as I'm concerned, I question if you can't find a qualified contractor to complete the road, rather than perhaps you want to change your mind and put a 40B and perhaps change the road. I'm not really sure what you're up to. No, I indulge you by telling you you're in front of me, so I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm thinking. As far as I'm concerned, I don't know. I really don't. I think we've been more than amenable to you guys for probably well over 10 years. If I go back, I don't know the last time you were chair, Johnny, but I was looking at some information that you signed as chair, and I don't think you've been chair for...
10 years.
Well, pretty close to that.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, I don't know how much more we can do for you, and as far as I'm concerned, I think granting you the extension to March 19th was being fair and equitable. That's my feeling, so I'm just gonna convey my feeling, so.
How much of Restaurant Depot is complete?
We're not involved with Restaurant Depot.
I can't hear you.
We're not involved with Restaurant Depot.
They're doing the work?
Correct.
Do you have any idea how long, where they are?
I
No,
don't.
you
Sorry.
don't.
And what's the current status in terms of what's out there?
We're scheduling to have National Grid install the utility poles on the portion of the roadway, and probably in September put down the final binder after they've done some of their their work to their facility.
What was the requirement in terms of having access for Restaurant Depot?
I don't recall.
I believe the road had to be put in.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, they would have,
That's what I believe.
yeah, there needs to
Yeah.
be
And this is
some.
why I'm saying, I don't understand why you can't find a contractor when that was what was supposed to happen, so.
Yeah, not just the roadway, but the improvements out at the highway.
Yes.
Were all part of that original subdivision approval. You know, I discussed it with Mike, and to me, you want to get the road done, regardless of, who's on first or what uses are going where. If they decide at some point not to do the 40B, we still need to get the subdivision road completed for whatever goes in there. So from that standpoint, giving them an extension as requested really, just facilitates that, if anything. Otherwise, as he said, he'll just be back, at the last minute, trying to get the extension, when we kind of know right now that he may not hit that deadline anyway.
It's
So-
clear he's not gonna meet the deadline because they, for whatever reason, you're stalling and getting a contractor. That's what you're doing.
That's not been communicated to me, sir.
You know what's been communicated to me? Nothing. But you knew from the get-go that the road had to go in.
Correct.
It is not this planning board's fault that you have been unable to secure a contractor for whatever reason. And it could be solely associated with cost. I don't know, but it's not relevant to this board. Giving him an extension till September is only gonna bring him back in September and ask for another one. Please, the road needs to get put in. End of story. I'm tired of these games. And again, I think we've been more than cooperative with your company. And I found it to be totally disingenuous for you to come in and ask for another extension when you know what the rules of engagement were. I'm sorry, but it just, enough is enough. Obviously, I'm not supporting a further extension.
I guess my biggest concern, I mean, the road goes nowhere until Restaurant Depot is open in terms of usage. So I guess I'd like input from them as to what effect this would have on them or not. I mean, if there's construction equipment down there and they planning on opening and stuff that, so I would, before I grant this, I'd at least like to have some input from them.
Yeah, if I may, the road is complete to provide them access to their facility.
To their facility, it's totally complete?
Yep.
So it's just into your facility, at the continuation that would go into your facility?
It's part of the Deer Street extension's about 300 feet and involves the installation of another bridge.
The improvements at the intersection itself, are they completed at 85?
They're gonna be started in the first week of August. That's what
So
the-
you would not be asking for that stuff would all be completed before
Oh, yeah.
you would need this. So the extension that you're asking for is for work associated with the extension of Deer Street beyond any access that would be needed for anything. It's just going into your property that the extension is really being granted for.
Exactly.
And it's the extension that would go into the 40B, because that's where the driveways are.
Yeah.
That's correct at this point.
Is there a way we can word that, Larry, so that we make sure that all that other work is completed and the extension would only be for that section beyond as part of this? I mean, I'd be much more apt to grant that if we know it's, all that, and effectively it's road work beyond where anybody is gonna be accessing. And obviously, it has to be completed before they could get any material, any combustible material in there anyways.
Yeah, well, Mike and I can take a look at it. As you know, he's on vacation yet this week, but at this stage of the game, coming back at the next meeting shouldn't be
Yeah, that's what I'm
problematic.
thinking. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll
Be the 14th of
I'll grant
August.
you coming before us now helps us at least in that extent that we can at least,
Yeah,
I'd at least like to get, take a look at that and see if we could do that. I mean, I think that,
we'll just hold this over till the 14th of next month. That's the only time they're meeting next month. And that'll give Mike and I a chance to look at it, and maybe you could
think
submit
that'll
some more
work.
information that he can review, so. Yeah, I just recommend you continue it.
That'll work till the 14th.
Yeah, I mean, I think that certainly would be a lot more amenable to this board if we knew that, in fact, the extension that we're granting you is for a section of Deer Street that you're gonna need to do any development in your section. At that point, probably it would be worthwhile to take in a plan on the meeting on the 14th, just so we could see what we're talking about in terms of what would be completed, what isn't, and that way we have that.
Yeah.
So will Mike be at that meeting in August?
Well, he won't be on vacation as far as I know. 'cause he's
Oh,
on
okay.
vacation now.
He'll at least he'll have a chance to go out and take a look at it before
Right.
then, so we should at least have some
Right.
level of report in terms of what he sees
What kind
completed
of a
and not.
motion do you want?
To continue?
To continue to the 14th?
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
just, it's not a public hearing or anything, we can just
Yeah, just-
continue this till the
Right.
14th.
Okay.
I don't even know that we need a motion to do that, there's nothing, it's
No.
just procedural.
Just,
So
yeah.
we'll put it on the agenda for the 14th with that additional information. Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Right.
Last item on the agenda is amended site plan, 196 East Main Street, Quarry Square Realty Trust.
No, you're stuck with that, too.
He was very quiet.
Well, yeah. Good
You want me to,
Who is he? It's
Read
his
yours.
Engineer.
the engineer.
Yeah, the applicant requests waiver of full site plan approval for a change of use on the subject property. Specifically, the applicant's proposing the use as a transportation terminal of 166 of the off-street parking spaces in the lot. This is to accommodate the delivery van parking associated with the Amazon
Look at her.
facility on Industrial Road.
Oh, all right, all right.
The parking area to be utilized provides required off-street parking for 2 retail stores in the plaza that are currently vacant. However, it's unclear how the operation will function, given that 2 parking spaces per van would normally be necessary. 1 space for the driver's personal vehicle and 1 space for the van to be picked up. By recommending approval only if the board's satisfied with the operational aspects of the proposal.
Well, I'm glad he came in after he already started using it
Yeah.
for this purpose. And the fact that, in fact, you're correct, Larry, they are using 2 spaces, they drop off the van and then they go out, so that 2 spaces are required, so it's good that he came in. It's always a good thing.
We just like doing good things.
Just be nice.
Then you might wonder why the board is somewhat difficult with things.
So, as Larry said, we're here for a change of use, for a use that is allowed in the zone as a transportation terminal. These 2 buildings, which were previously occupied by Stop and Shop, TJ Maxx, Home Goods, are now empty. And the applicant is sought to lease out a series of parking spaces within this area here, surrounded by green landscape area with trees, for the storage of vans used by Amazon to make deliveries.
You see?
The aspect is that the drivers will come in, park their vehicles, take their van, be gone for the day, come back at the end of the day, park their van, take their car. So there's not a lot of multiple trips going in and out of here. Most of the trips go in and out of the Amazon site off of Industrial Road. It's basically 2 trips, 1 trip in, 1 trip out in the morning for each of the vans. They have 75 vans, so ultimately they need 150 spaces. We've set aside this area here, which is 166 spaces.
Sit right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Any plans to
Stop.
temporarily fence those areas in, or
Sure.
any type of,
Is that the entire
No, there's been no discussion about it.
I don't think so.
Home Goods? No?
Worse than it already
It's
does.
worse than, really, because I mean, ultimately, except for at night.
yeah, I understand
It's
that.
gonna look like
but-
cars parked in parking spaces.
Yeah, but I understand that, I also understand the policing that we normally get from the applicant, and I get the feeling we're gonna see vans all over the place,
Yeah.
is my other issue.
Is he gonna stripe it then somehow so they know where to park?
No.
Well, it's already striped.
No, I mean in a different color or anything so that they know where to park? Because I'm not convinced they're smart enough to know how to even get to the site, let
Right,
alone
well, I
park
mean,
correctly.
if we need to do something with some signage, we can do something with some signage.
So at least there's enough spaces
It'll
there's a
accommodate
space for
'em.
the truck and the car.
Yeah, right.
So did they give us any clue as to how they're gonna manage this? That the driver will park his car behind the van he's gonna pick up, or
They'll be all over the place.
park beside it? or-
I'm
Yeah.
not
It's just
100%
gonna be
sure
a-
how, it's just probably just gonna come in
a
and
free
park in
for
an
all.
empty spot, and then take his van from whatever spot is available, you know? Come and park, so it'll look more random, you know, in the parking lot. I
Yeah.
mean, parking and rent a parking lot are random, you know, everybody doesn't pull in and line up next to the one right next to them, people park in random spaces. So it'll look the same way.
Right, but to the extent that there are other active businesses in the area, I would think you'd wanna have it signed so that they're at
Right.
least in that area that Bob's showing on the plan, whether it's the van or their personal vehicle.
Yeah, we can prepare signage, I mean, we can propose some signage.
Yeah, he's getting warmed up.
Parking area for, you know, Amazon vehicles and drivers only.
I mean, they can't even use their own site at Industrial Road, so I'm not convinced they're gonna know how to use this either.
Go ahead, Pat.
Comments from the board?
You know, Bob, with all due respect, see, one of the things that I'm bothered by, there's a lot of things I'm bothered by, but specific to
Tonight, it
this.
seems like.
When I recall Amazon, if I date myself back, when they first came, I believe that the property up on Industrial, in the beginning, I believe they showed provisions for additional parking.
Right, they
That I
did.
believe that they didn't fulfill.
Correct.
My 2 cent opinion, and as much as I don't consider them a good neighbor, I do believe that in terms of tax revenue for the town of Milford, and in terms of keeping businesses where they belong, that they should be going back and putting in the parking so that they can be back on the tax roll, so the town of Milford can get added tax relief, or added tax benefit from that building, and they should be kept where they belong.
Yeah.
I think this is setting a precedent that allows every other company to go and start harboring spaces here and there, and I don't think that's a good message. And I'm not gonna be one that's gonna support it. I understand it's a legitimate use, however, not for this application. They have the room. They previously showed that they were going to put additional spots in, which they failed to do. As far as I'm concerned, that's their solution. This is not a viable solution. And to Larry's point, they don't necessarily stay within that confined area in pink like you highlighted. In a perfect world, they would, but they don't. So I just don't think that it's a proper image for the town of Milford when you have vacant buildings. I'd rather see that the owner of the property try to remarket it and bring other businesses in. And if anything, this would be a temporary fix, and I believe that their permanent fix is right there on their own property, like they had previously shown to us. So I can't support this, because I think their solution is staring them right in the eye, and they just choose not to want to invest in it, and I don't think that's right.
Well, not only that, no matter how many signs you put there, it's not gonna work.
No.
Sounds like a motion to
I mean,
deny.
109 is the
I've given my
perfect
2 cents.
Oh,
example.
I was being hopeful.
You didn't ask for a motion yet.
Oh, I know.
You just asked for comments.
Okay.
Any other comments? I mean, I don't know that this goes against any regulation per se, and obviously, if this applicant comes forward and wants to rent out these buildings, this goes away. It can't be there.
Precisely. Let him
Well,
do
that's
that
up,
then.
that's up to him. I mean, that's his choice.
Right. Right, even a portion of a store, we would have to come back in and show that there was adequate parking in the remainder of the area.
Yeah, and if we set aside these areas and we find that they're not, then it's gonna be awful difficult for him to come back and say, oh, I got parking when I got people parking all over the place. So
Right.
that's something that he would have to do. I mean, I don't know that
He understands that.
we have an issue. I guess I'm looking at it saying, as far as I'm concerned, that, you know, if that's what they want to do, they have every right to do it. I just want to make sure that we try to control the people that are in there.
You're asking for trouble.
How are you gonna do that?
That may be, but I think he has the legal right to do it.
He absolutely has a legal right to do it. I just,
Well, if he gets the site plan approved.
but it's up to us to grant the the waiver of site plan, which, again, I don't think that this is the most intelligent way of handling his problem. That's just my opinion. And I don't think it does much for that area, and I don't think it speaks well for the town of Milford to put in a random parking lot specific for vans. I just don't think it's the right image.
Then we need to change the zoning.
I'm not gonna change the zoning based on one company.
Well, unfortunately, the fact is, this is a legal use of this property.
It absolutely-
So if
I
you want,
didn't
if you
say-
want
I
to
didn't
deny it
suggest
based
that it
on a
wasn't.
legal use, I'm not sure how we do that.
Because
we
the
can make it-
applicant himself initially showed that he was gonna put in additional parking, which he failed to do.
The applicant is not Amazon.
On the other site. This is.
This
Pat-
is-
The applicant is
Okay, but
not
you
Amazon,
used the
though.
word Amazon, did you not?
Well, yeah, but
I didn't
that's-
use that word, you used it.
No, Amazon
Hold
is
on.
leasing the space.
You're the one who said
Amazon
it.
is the lease, but they're
So
not the
Amazon's
applicant.
also the leasee up in industrial.
But they're not, well, they own it, but that's their building.
Again.
This building belongs to,
I understand, but the
Forest
vans
Square
themselves, you
LLC.
said were for Amazon.
yeah, but they, you know,
I'm just saying,
it's
you,
just no different than any car here, doesn't belong to these people.
It's gonna make that area look
yeah, but they're renting it, they're not parking there for free,
Right,
which they've been doing for some time.
right.
So, you know, technically, if we want to be technical, then illegally
But if there was
doing
an
it.
issue, if there was an issue with this site, you wouldn't go to Stop and Shop with an issue with the parking in the site, you would go to the owner of the property. So even,
What I'm suggesting to you, if the vans are Amazon's,
Yeah,
and the property and industrial is Amazon's, like you just said.
yeah.
Then I'm saying that initially they came Amazon and showed
Yeah.
that they were gonna put additional parking, which they didn't do.
But that shouldn't
So how,
penalize
well,
this
hold
guy.
on, so how am I wrong by saying that?
You're not wrong, but it shouldn't
All right,
penalize
then.
this person for being able to utilize his property.
He can
for a
utilize
use
his
that's-
property,
that's
absolutely, he can
approved
do whatever he
in the law.
wants. However, I don't think that that's an appropriate location for Amazon to be parking vehicles, that's what I'm saying. I don't. I think he'd be better off remarketing that back to some sort of degree of retail or something. And if anything, Bob,
At
if
some
it,
point he
let me
will.
finish, and if anything, Bob, this is nothing more than a
There's no
temporary for
warehouse
them.
there.
It may be.
Nothing there.
It is.
All right,
So
then
they're
it
not
may
gonna-
be.
There's nothing there.
Then they-
All right then, so,
you know, I'm sure
I'm
they're
entitled to my
actively trying
opinion, and I'm just
Be a warehouse.
simply saying, as I look down into the future, this is nothing more than a temporary fix, that resolves nothing.
Well, it's a temporary fix. It resolves something
see what
until,
he's doing now.
until either Amazon can get themselves additional parking, or until the owners of this property can find tenants for their property. But it allows them to take dead space and generate some income.
Which they've been doing for some time,
But I mean, it has been that long.
longer than a day.
Well, yeah, okay.
All right then, so, just saying.
Yeah, so we're trying to make it
Just because
right by
someone
making
noticed
it-
that he rented it out to him, don't pretend like we can all be naive.
I'm not, I'm just
All right,
saying
then.
that, you know, it's an allowed use.
I didn't suggest it wasn't. Don't
But-
say
but-
that I
but to
did
say, you know, but to say that, to put this on Amazon, it's, you know, I mean.
I don't think I'm wrong. You mentioned Amazon, you said they're going to industrial. I know that they had,
Joe, what do you want to do?
they had previously shown parking up there, which they failed to put in.
Have to-
That's all I'm saying. And
Need a
again,
motion one way
as
or
far as
another.
I'm concerned, the tax, they're skirting tax implications on that property that the town of Milford could be securing if they added additional parking, and that's all I'm suggesting,
They
so.
wouldn't- I don't believe there'd be hardly any change in tax implications.
Listen, they tax
No,
everything in this town.
there's no change in the square footage of the building as part of this.
Right.
But that's neither here nor there in terms
Do
of
you have real
our,
estate property? Well, you know, well, it depends on where the trucks are registered, too. Hey, listen, we're all entitled to our own opinion. You don't have to agree with me, and I don't have to
You do
agree
it
with
on a
you.
trial basis.
no. I would think we're gonna end up having to approve the waiver of site plan.
You need to consider, if you need to condition it with signage, you know,
I think we want the area defined in some matter.
Yeah.
You're gonna make it look like a bonded yard? I'm just wondering. I don't think it's a,
so there's ways to do it. Yeah, they're not-
there's
you
a
know,
ton
they're
of
not-
ways to do it, but we don't live in the city either.
Well, I mean, you know, it's a sea of asphalt, so I mean, it's just gonna be open. It's not like we're digging up some some lawn area and cutting down some trees to be able to use this property as, you know. It's what it's meant for. It's meant for parking vehicles. That's what it's designed for.
But it's meant to park for vehicles for It's meant for vehicles that support the building in front of it.
Right. And
That's
But
what
there's nothing
that's
in the-
for.
there's nothing in the
I
building.
mean,
There's nothing in the building.
I know there's nothing in there. So what if someone does go in there?
Then they have to come back to us.
Then they'll have to, they'll have to go away, and it's.
They'll have to go away.
Now we should be in the remarketing, we should be remarketing the business, the buildings for him.
That's not our,
Essentially, that's basically what he's saying, that he's entitled because the buildings
That's
are
right.
vacant.
Right.
And my suggesting is this is nothing more than
I-
a temporary fix.
I have
If
a tough,
anything.
I have a tough time believing if we're gonna get into business acumen that he isn't trying to, he's gonna get a hell of a lot more money renting the building than he is renting 150 parking spaces. So I doubt very much he's sitting here saying, I'm not gonna rent those buildings because I rent it to Amazon. I really have a tough time believing that.
Right, exactly. He is actively pursuing, this site to make it more viable, commercially fenced out.
I know.
All right, I'll move we approve it.
Motion by John to grant approval of the amended site plan for Quarry Square. Do I hear a second?
I'm not gonna second it, no.
Chair
Well,
will,
there aren't
the
many
chair will
left.
second for further discussion. Is there any other further discussion?
The only thing I feel is if, it just is not, it doesn't look right when you're driving in there, with all the trucks around. I'm looking at it from a woman's point of view, along with.
They're not gonna
town
be in the
planners.
middle of the parking lot,
But they're only there
side of the
at the
parking.
end of the day. They're not there all day
They're
long.
not there all day.
They come in, you're gonna see cars there in the during regular business hours, you're gonna see cars there. Their vans are gonna be off making deliveries till however long, all hours. And then you're
And,
just
and the
gonna
number of vans, do we know the number
see. I
of
suppose it was
vans?
75.
A 75. And the size of the vans?
They're not very big, they're
Two
small, they're a
parking
small
lot, two
white van.
parking spaces.
They're
We've already
two
gone
parking
over that.
spaces
Yeah.
long?
No,
They fit in, they fit in the parking
They
spot.
fit in the parking space.
Typical cargo van,
Yeah.
Yeah,
unit that
okay.
you'd see.
I mean, I just have to know some of that,
Yeah.
those particulars, okay.
Well, there's nothing on that side that people are walking back and forth to.
No.
In terms of people being in the parking lot, having to gain access, so they're not walking through this area.
No. There's
So-
Weight Watchers on the other end.
Yeah, and that section is still,
It's still
Still-
parking there.
yeah, there's plenty of parking in that area to handle any of the buildings that are in that area.
And we specifically chose this area because there are two landscape strips on either side.
Those are the landscape, that's what I was
It's the only
wondering.
place where there's the landscape strips, there's
Okay.
trees buffering this in this
I know
location.
where it is,
So
yeah.
we specifically chose that area, so there would be some sort of buffer with landscaping.
Motion's on the
I'm
floor.
just, the only other thing, I don't know whether it would look worse or not, was trying to limit them so that they'd come back out towards the old Stop and Shop side, so they weren't driving into where other people are driving, but I'm not sure that.
No, you know, we're,
You're not gonna be able to control that, I can
no,
tell you
you
that.
can't control it.
Well, I could control it by putting Jersey barriers along that entrance.
You'd have a
off
problem,
this
you'd have a
side.
problem in the winter, Joe.
Yeah, I know.
In terms
No, I
of
wouldn't do
plowing,
that.
I don't think that that's what you wanna do.
Yeah, I know.
No.
Well, we can,
Motion on the floor. You
that
have
one, we can
second
always
and
call
what?
them back to see
Yeah,
if
I'll wait
if
for him
there's
to-
problems
Good issue.
with traffic going through there, depending on what we see.
She's
So anyways,
seconded.
Hey, Joe,
I already seconded it, because I
Okay.
seconded
you
it
did,
from the
okay,
chair.
yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
3 in favor, 1 opposed. Thank you.
With a pin, the pins?
Oh, you want your pens?
Yeah.
Anything else?
I didn't have anything else, any other business from the board?
Nope.
Move to adjourn.
John?
Motion by Pat to adjourn, seconded by John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous at 4.
No, there's still.
Another day.